So in this video, I want to talk about Season 2 and the possibility of skipped content, and also Season 1 as well, and content that will be covered in Season 2 that was skipped in Season 1, and just explaining why stuff will be probably skipped and why stuff that was skipped will be now introduced into this season, and also just some extra context as well. There won't be any spoilers in this, but if you are a light novel reader, you will know what I'm talking about. And for those that want to actually get spoilers from this, you'll be able to take what I say from this and be able to research further to work out exactly what I'm pointing at. But if you just want a general idea of a discussion itself about Season 2, then of course you will be more than fine. So with Season 2, there was a big discussion about Volume 7 being skipped, and this is a volume that was not in the web novel and was not at the time in the manga. The manga did then announce shortly after the Season 2 announcement that it would be in fact covering the missing content from the light novels. Now, of course, the anime is based on the light novels. I've seen a lot of people try to argue other things like, oh, it's part manga, part light novel. I find those to be very weak arguments, but again, you are entitled to your own opinion. I just thoroughly disagree with that opinion. But that being said, there is definitely probably going to be some stuff skipped in Season 2. But that isn't necessarily a bad thing, because much of that stuff that's been skipped will probably be delved into in Season 3. Much like how Season 1 has skipped stuff that we already know will be covered in Season 2 just from the trailers itself. And that is to do with the extra chapters in Season 1. Now, of course, there was a Volume 1 extra chapter that won't be covered, and that was to do with Zenith and her kind of adapting to her new life, with, of course, Lilith having her own child, and Paul basically being the father of 2 children, and also with Rudy also being the child that he was, and exceptionally different. Something that Zenith wasn't really used to, because Rudy was able to deal in situations that a normal child wasn't able to do, because of the fact that Rudy had the knowledge of children itself. He knew how to take care of children. So from his past life, he was able to assist Zenith in little ways, which kind of threw her off a little bit. She kind of felt that he was a little bit more mature and knowledgeable than he should have been, but she kind of just took it up as gifted, which is understandable. That won't be, of course, covered because that was skipped, and that was a really awesome chapter. I covered it only a couple of weeks ago on the channel, so if you want that, check out the character analysis videos and you'll see that skipped chapter. The other stuff that will be covered from Season 1 is mostly to do with a particular character that you will be introduced to. And that was one of the good things about the light novels, was that it tried to introduce characters ahead of time so that you could get a bit of a feel for them, understand their backstory, who they were, what they were like. Now, Season 1 did hint at some stuff, but it didn't go full detail. Season 2 will most likely go into the details that were missing, which is perfectly fine. That fits perfectly with the timeline, because if it was introduced into Season 1, it would have spoiled kind of the fun of it. Now, of course, from a light novel's perspective, you could say, oh, well, that's what... But the thing about light novels was they were introducing characters that you kind of weren't fully aware of, you were kind of building an understanding of, and yes, there were a little bit, but again, light novel to anime is done very differently. It's one of those where it's what works on paper and what works in animation can be very different. And so it makes sense that the extra stuff from the Season 1 volumes will be in Season 2. Now, as far as Season 2 goes, we are assuming, based on what's been shown in the trailers, the multitude of trailers, that it will be covering volumes 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and in fact 12. So I'm assuming based on that they will do a double core season, which is 24 episodes give or take. I've seen some people claim that they're going to cover it all in 12 episodes. I don't believe that will be the case, but if I'm wrong, I'll be severely disappointed and concerned, but I don't believe that to be the case. I think that's just a lot of doom and gloom, but that's just my opinion. You're entitled to disagree. Now, I have seen some rumors going around saying that it's going to be more than 2 cores, that it's going to be 3 cores and all the rest. I know some people are using copium to work on that, but I've got no reason to believe it other than just copium. That's it. I've got nothing to really work with other than people saying, oh, their track record, they got lucky with a couple of guesses. That's all it really was. That's all I'm going to bake it down to. So until otherwise, I'm just going to assume, based on the track record of Season 1, that Season 2 will be in fact 2 cores based on the volumes shown in the trailer. So, as far as Volume 7 goes, that will not be skipped. I've seen many people say it's going to be skipped. We already know that it's going to be in Season 2 based on the trailers, and I believe that will also cover the extra chapter from Volume 7 as well, because it's context-based to the future volumes. Now, as far as Volume 8 goes, I do think they will probably skip the extra chapter and probably maybe the side story stuff. One of the things that Jobless Reincarnation does skip is different perspectives. The anime does a very good job at only focusing on Rudy's perspective of the world and not actually showing the other perspectives. So if you do want a story where you can see all the other perspectives, I would recommend reading the light novels, or of course going to my analysis videos, and then of course you can go to light novels if you want, whichever suits your best needs. But that is one thing that the anime does do. It generally will only focus on Rudy's perspective, which is why some of the side story extra stuff is generally skipped, because those extra side story stuff are generally focused on different perspectives and some of the extra stuff throughout there. So that's just how it works. Volume 9 is the same case. You've got a side story and an extra chapter. The extra chapter in Volume 9 won't be skipped altogether. It will probably be saved for Season 3. If it is in Season 2, that'd be kind of cool. But there is some stuff that I do feel like in the extra chapters would be nice to be shown. I don't think it would be a bad idea if they did show the extra chapters from these volumes, but I'm just concerned that because of the fact that they've got to show some stuff from Season 1's extra chapters to give context to Season 2, and then of course you've got Season 2 stuff, there isn't much room to cover the extra chapters from these volumes, which is of course 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, or there isn't actually any extra chapters in 12, but you get my point, unless they were to do another core. But I don't think they'll go that far. Maybe they will, and if they do an extra core, I'll be really happy. It's the same as if it was a single core, I'd be disappointed. If it's 3 cores, then I'll be severely happy. If it's 2 cores, then I kind of expect that they will most likely skip a lot of these extra chapters. There is a possibility that they could do some OVAs, much like they did with Season 1, do an OVA or 2 just to cover some of the extra chapters to give context to certain events that do play out in Season 2, because there is one extra chapter that happens in these volumes that will give context to one of the events that does happen in the sort of partway through story in a certain arc. I don't want to spoil it. For light novel fans, they'll know exactly what I'm referring to. Basically a fight kind of thing. So I do feel like you don't need the extra chapter. It could be one of those where it's like later on it could be explained in Season 3 or in an OVA, and then people will be like, oh, that's what it refers to, like kind of like a little reference to the past or the present kind of thing, which also falls into Volume 10 as well. There's an extra chapter there and a side story that I think will be most likely thrown to Season 3, and one of those also skipped as well. So the side story will be thrown to Season 3. The extra chapter will probably be skipped entirely. And then, of course, Volume 11 will probably follow the same situation, even though some of these extra chapters and side stories do focus on one particular character, while some of the others do focus on other perspectives. I think also the extra chapter from Volume 11 will also be skipped as well. As I mentioned before, Volume 12 does not have any extra chapters or side stories. That is very heavily focused on a major event that happens, and there are different perspectives in that volume. So I think as far as skipping goes, you will just get the skipping of the different perspectives, and it will just be focused on Rudy's perspective. So that's what I think will be skipped. I hope that's enough information if you're just kind of curious about what may or may not be skipped. It's just one of those where it's like, it's par for the course when it comes to light novels to animes that there is always going to be some minor skipping and some shuffling around. And that's why, at the end of the day, if you want the full context and you want the full picture and the full story, then you can go to the light novels, or of course consuming content that explains it, like myself, because of course you may not have all the time in the world to read the amount of volumes that there are for Mushoku Tensei. I'm very much excited for season 2. Definitely going to be covering a lot of Mushoku Tensei content non-stop, weekly. Probably will be doing 2 to 3 videos a week on this channel on Mushoku Tensei when season 2 airs. So definitely have that to look forward to. So of course, if there are any things you do want me to talk about, tell me in the comment section down below and I will write them on a list for future videos. But of course, if you like this video, hit the like, subscribe, and I'll see you beautiful nerds in the next video.